Hello my dear friends, today I'm talking about the partial lunar eclipse in Pisces that has happened on 28th of August 2026. So I will show you a chart that is with the local hour of Romania, Bucharest, but you can adapt the chart to your location. So, somewhere in the morning of 28, the moon reaches fullness in Pisces, and for a few brief minutes, Earth's shadow takes a bite out of its light. It's a partial lunar eclipse, not a total one. That means it doesn't arrive with a dramatic show wave of a total eclipse, but rather with a pressure that builds gradually, both in the days leading up to its end, even more noticeable throughout the weeks that follow. The chart is packed with meaning, even from the planetary placements. The Sun and Mercury stand together in Virgo, directly opposite with the Moon in Pisces. This creates the classic axis of work versus spirit, routine, health, order, and practical details on one side, and dreams, surrender, faith, and intuition on the other hand. This is the kind of eclipse that forces you to choose between what you do with your hands every day and what your soul quietly calls you toward beyond shredders and to-do lists. Actually, the invitation is to reach a balance between these two situations. Adding to this opposition, Uranus in Gemini, forming an exact square to both ends of the axis and creating a classic T-square between Virgo, Pisces, and Gemini. Just when you think you've found a balance between duty and desire. Unexpected news, a sudden change of plans, or new information forces you to recognize everything on the fly. Uranus doesn't knock politely, he breaks the window, but he doesn't so to free you from a pattern that, if you are honest, had become far too comfortable. The encouraging news comes from Jupiter in Leo. That Jupiter is traditional ruler of Pisces, where the eclipse moon is placed, forms a harmonious trine, Jupiter in Leo, with retrograde Saturn in Aries. It's a combination of expansion guided by discipline, of courage that doesn't dissolve into chaos. It suggests that no matter how unsettling the eclipse may appear on the surface, there is a solid framework underneath that will not collapse. The moon in Pisces also receives another supportive trine from Mars in Cancer, meaning that your instinct for self-protection and your willingness to care for those you love are there exactly when you need them most. Of course, Mars in Cancer doesn't feel too well there, but if you use properly, you can do it a good job. In the background, moving much more slowly, retrograde Neptune in Aries forms a sextile with retrograde Pluto in Aquarius. It's a subtle connection that might barely be noticeable from one month to the next, but this year it begins to take on real significance. Old ideals are transforming into genuine power for action rather than remaining beautiful dreams. Pluto also stands close to the North Node in Aquarius, linking this eclipse to a collective process far greater than any one individual's, a systemic reset unfolding over years, not merely over the course of a single month. Venus in Libra brings a welcome touch of diplomacy to the overall picture. It helps you avoid making harsh or impulsive decisions during the eclipse period encouraging you instead to express what needs to be said with grace, balance, and tact. So this eclipse asks just one thing of each of us: to allow something to dissolve without clinging to its old form. What that something, it depends entirely on the natal house where the moon falls in your birth chart. And that's exactly what I will talk about it when it's about each rising sign. But until then, this eclipse is part of the family of eclipses, Sarosh 138. So, as you know, each eclipse belongs to a family known as a Sarosh cycle, a period of approximately 18 years and 11 days, during which the Sun, Moon, and lunar nodes return to nearly the same geometric alignment. So, this eclipse belongs to Sarosh 138, a lunar series that began on October 15, 1521, with a barely visible penumbral eclipse, and will conclude nearly 9 centuries later, in 2982. We don't know what will happen then, but between those two endpoints, the series consists of 82 eclipses. What matters most for us today is the stage this Sarosh family has reached. This Sarosh series entered its partial eclipse phase in 1918 and has remained there ever since. That sequence of partial eclipses is now approaching its end, while the first total lunar eclipse of the series will not occur until 2044. In other words, this eclipse is one of the final partial eclipses before this Sarosh family enters in the era of total lunar eclipse. That tells us something important about the nature of its energy. This is not an eclipse that delivers complete revelation or brings everything into the light all at once. Instead, it's an eclipse of preparation, inner preparation. It only takes a partial bite out of the moon, leaving the rest of the shadow for another time. The themes that emerge now, it's everything connected with Virgo-Pisces axis, the balance between work and surrender, discipline and faith, and unlikely to reach a final resolution through this eclipse alone. They unfold layer by layer, with each return of the Sarosh cycle every 18 years. Gradually, building towards maturity in the 2040s, when the series finally reaches its total eclipse phase. From a practical perspective, if this eclipse seems to open a chapter without bringing it to a clear conclusion, that's perfectly normal. This is precisely how Sarosh families is working. They rarely provide definitive answers in a single event. Instead, they unfold a much longer story over time. If you'd like to understand what is beginning for you now along the Virgo-Pisces axis, look back to what was happening in your life 18 years ago, in 2008. The story that began then is now receiving its next chapter. Okay, if we remember that year, you remember that on the global level, it used to be on the peak of the economic crisis, a big one with a big impact. I don't know if the humanity used to learn the lessons of that year. I don't think so. But we will see. But for you, it's more important the impact of the eclipse for your life, according with your rising sign or ascendant is the same thing. So, for Aries rising, the eclipse moon falls in your 12th house, while the Sun and Mercury is busy in your 6th house in Virgo. This is a subtle axis that doesn't create much noise in the outside world, yet it works deeply beneath the surface. The 12th house rules hidden losses, exhaustion, restless sleep, hospitals and institutions, as well as everything you kept secret, even from yourself. Things that you cannot see, the subconscious things. Also, it's about the bad habits. The 6th house represents the practical side of your life: work, health, daily routines, colleagues, and the physical body. The central theme is this: something you've carried in silence for far too long, whether it's exhaustion and old fear or guilt that was never truly yours, is now asking to be processed rather than buried beneath even more work. Uranus in Gemini falls in your 3rd house, forming a square to both ends of the eclipse's axis. A piece of news, a message, or a brief conversation could disrupt an arrangement you believed was stable, whether at work or regarding your health. The good news comes from Jupiter in Leo in your 5th house, forming an harmonious trine with retrograde Saturn in your 1st house. This gives you solid support to build something lasting through joy, creativity, and the activities that make you feel truly alive without rushing the process. The Pisces moon also forms a trine with Mars in Cancer in your 4th house, suggesting that your family or home environment becomes a genuine sanctuary rather than just a comforting area. What you can do: prioritize sleep during the week of the eclipse. Your body is asking for rest, not just short breaks. If you are feeling burned out at work, don't try to fix it by working even harder. Talk to someone you trust. The 12th house heals through honest confession, not through isolation. Avoid making important medical or health-related decisions on the day of the eclipse itself. Give yourself a few days of clarity and make space for meaningful time with your family. Even if it feels impossible, this is where your true support lies right now. For Taurus rising, the eclipse moon falls in your 11th house, and the Sun and Mercury is busy in your 5th house in Virgo. This axis directly highlights friendship, social circles, long-term hopes and aspirations versus creativity, children, pleasure, and everything you do for the joy of it rather than out of the obligation. This is an eclipse about discovering who truly supports your dreams and who is simply taking up space. A friendship or a community may reveal its limitations, or, on the other hand, you could meet an unexpected ally precisely when you least expected it. Uranus in Gemini falls in your 2nd house, squaring the eclipse axis. Your finances, personal values, or self-worth may be shaken by unexpected news or unplanned expense connected to a group, organization, or creative project. Support once again comes through the Jupiter-Saturn trine. Jupiter in Leo is in your 4th house, while retrograde Saturn moves in your 12th house, creating a powerful link between your family roots and the deeply private inner process you are currently experiencing. The Pisces moon trine Mars in Cancer, that is in your 3rd house, suggests that an honest conversation with a sibling, close relative, or trusted neighbor may help you better understand what you're feeling emotionally. Try to avoid to not become passive-aggressive because you want to protect something. Okay, it's nice that you want to protect, but if you want to talk with somebody, you need to be active in the conversation and open to it. What you can do? Take an honest personal inventory on the people in your life. Okay, you don't make lists. Lists should not be very long anyway. Who genuinely lift you up and who keeps you stuck or get you down. Don't cut ties impulsively during the eclipse period, but pay attention to what you observe. Your impressions are likely to be confirmed over the coming month. If an unexpected expense arises involving a group or a creative hobby, avoid making immediate financial decisions. Give yourself a few days before committing. Finally, invest time in a creative project, even if it seems to have no immediate practical purpose. An eclipsed moon in the 11th house rewards authentic involvement over the long term, not calculated expectations. For Gemini rising, the eclipsed moon falls in your 10th house, while the Sun and Mercury is in your 4th house. This is one of the most visible axes in astrology: career, status, and public reputation versus home, family, roots, and private life. This is the kind of eclipse that can expose a long-standing tension between how much of yourself you give to your career and how much remains for your loved ones. A promotion, a change in professional role, a shift in your public image, or a family matter requiring your physical presence precisely when you are busiest could emerge now. Uranus, moving through your 1st house, directly challenges both your career and your home life. You may feel as you've changed fundamentally, as if the old version of yourself no longer fits into your current life. The Jupiter-Saturn trine offers valuable support. Jupiter in Leo falls in your 3rd house, while retrograde Saturn in your 11th house. Your communication skills, ideas, and the way you present your future plans find strong support within your community or among trusted friends. The Pisces moon trine Mars in Cancer in your 2nd house suggests that courage in handling your finance or recognizing your professional worth helps you overcome a difficult situation. What you can do? If you feel pressured to choose between career and family, don't force a final decision yet. The eclipse points you in a direction. It doesn't demand a lifelong commitment overnight. Be open with your family about your schedule rather than allowing silence treatment to build. If news about your career arrives, a job offer, restructuring, or promotion, read every detail twice before reacting. Uranus in your own sign may tempt you to jump to conclusions too quickly. Don't rush, and don't underestimate simple gesture. Visiting your parents or having a longer than usual phone call can mean far more than you realize during this period. Cancer rising. The eclipsed moon falls in your 9th house, while the Sun and Mercury occupy your 3rd house in Virgo. This axis connects higher education, long-distance travel, philosophy, and faith with everyday communication, siblings, neighbors, and short journeys. This eclipse has the potential to overturn a long-held belief about the world or reshape a personal philosophy you've cherished for many years. It may also bring developments involving higher education, an important exam, an international contract, or a long postponed journey abroad. Uranus in Gemini, moving through your 12th house, adds an element of uncertainty. Hidden information or private doubts may shake your confidence just when you thought you had finally found your direction. Mentally, you are very restless. You need to learn how to relax your mind and to get rest. This is actually a challenge. But Jupiter in Leo in your 2nd house forms a trine with retrograde Saturn in your 10th house. Your financial resources and career receive quiet but dependable support precisely when you need stability to pursue something new. Meanwhile, the Pisces moon trine Mars in Cancer in your 1st house gives you the personal courage to act on your convictions rather than talked about them. What you can do? If you've been considering further education, professional certification, or even relocating to another city or country, treat this eclipse as a signal rather than the exact moment to make the leap. Research very seriously, but avoid signing important documents on the day of the eclipse. Pay close attention to conversations with a sibling or close colleague. They may contain valuable information disguised as casual remarks. Don't allow philosophical or spiritual doubts to isolate you. Discuss them with someone you trust. Finally, review any academic or international documents with extra care before committing. For Leo rising, the eclipse moon falls in your 8th house, while Sun and Mercury occupy your 2nd house in Virgo. This axis highlights shared finances, inheritances, debts, intimacy, and profound transformation versus your personal income, resources, values, and financial independence. This is an eclipse with significant financial and emotional potential. It may bring clarity regarding loans, inheritances, mortgage, shared assets, or financial partnerships. It may also awaken a powerful desire to free yourself from an old material dependency. Uranus in Gemini, moving through your 11th house, shakes up friendships or group plans involving money. A collaborative project may suddenly change direction. The Jupiter-Saturn trine works strongly in your favor. Jupiter is traveling through your 1st house, while retrograde Saturn occupies your 9th house. Your confidence, vitality, and the way you present yourself to the world are strengthened by a mature philosophy of life, perhaps shaped by past travel experiences or higher education. The Pisces moon trine Mars in Cancer that is in your 12th house suggests that processing an old, deeply private emotion will give you far more strength than you might expect. What you can do? If you are discussing shared finances with a partner, business associate, or financial institution, prepare very well, but avoid signing final agreements on the day of the eclipse. This is an excellent time to confront old debts, not necessarily to eliminate them all immediately, but to face them honestly and develop a realistic plan. Don't shy away from a deeper conversation with your partner, even if it feels uncomfortable. The 8th house rewards honesty, not avoidance. Finally, allow yourself quiet time alone, without feeling the need to justify it to anyone. An emotion you've postponed dealing with is ready to be acknowledged and released. It's important to release some kind of emotions or things that kept you limited in a way. Virgo rising. For you, this eclipse falls directly across the ascendant line. The moon is in your 7th house, while the sun and Mercury is in your 1st house, right on your ascendant. This is the most personal expression of this eclipse. It speaks directly about you and the way you relate to other people. The 1st house represents your identity, physical body, vitality, and the way you initiate things. The 7th house rules partnerships, marriage, contracts, and even open rivals. This eclipse could bring a major turning point in a relationship, a marriage proposal, a separation, the signing or ending of an important contract, or simply the realization that you are no longer the same person who entered in that relationship. Uranus in Gemini, moving through your 10th house, suggests that a change in your public status or professional reputation may be directly connected to developments in your personal life. Jupiter in Leo in your 12th house forms an harmonious trine with retrograde Saturn in your 8th house, encouraging a deep process of transformation involving intimacy or shared resources. This process helps you release a burden you've been carrying for far too long time. Meanwhile, the Pisces moon in your 7th house trine Mars in Cancer in your 11th house, showing that the support of trusted friends or a community helps you see your relationship more clearly. So, what you can do? If you are considering a major decision about a relationship, allow yourself to feel before you analyze. With the eclipse activating your identity axis, the urge to act quickly will be stronger than usual, but not necessarily wiser. Listen to a trusted friend's perspective before making an important decision. Be mindful of how you present yourself publicly during this period, as your image could change in ways you didn't anticipate. Above all, be gentle with yourself. Eclipses on the ascendant can leave the body feeling more exhausted than the mind is willing to admit. Libra rising. The eclipse moon falls in your 6th house, while the sun and Mercury occupies your 12th house. And these axes connect work, health, and daily routines with the most hidden part of your chart. 12th house, solitude, sleep, inner healing, and everything that takes place behind the scenes. This eclipse may expose exhaustion you've been ignoring for quite some time. It could also bring sudden changes at work, such as a new colleague, a different routine, or a health issue that demands immediate attention. Uranus in Gemini, moving through your 9th house, may shake your beliefs about work or your professional path. News from abroad or developments involving education could completely alter your plans. Support comes through the Jupiter-Saturn trine. Jupiter in Leo in your 11th house harmonizes with retrograde Saturn in your 7th house, indicating that long-standing friendships provide valuable support for both your romantic relationships and your professional partnerships. The Pisces moon trine Mars in Cancer gives you the courage to take decisive action in your career without waiting for external approval. What you can do? If your current job leaves you feeling more drained than fulfilled, acknowledge it honestly without rushing to resign. It depends also how old are you, in which phase of your life are you, so there are many information that you need to take in account. If you've postponed a medical checkup, now it's an excellent time to schedule one. An eclipse activating the 6th house favors prevention over crisis management. Don't ignore signs of fatigue simply because you are busy, and dedicate sometimes even a small amount to a completely private activity. Something that is maybe meditation, journaling, counseling, or a quiet walk around. The Sun and Mercury in your 12th house are asking you for a genuine break from the outside world. Scorpio rising. The eclipse moon falls in your 5th house, while the Sun and Mercury occupies your 11th house. This axis connects creativity, children, pleasure, romance, and self-expression with friendships, social groups, and long-term hopes and aspirations. This eclipse may revolve around a child, your own or someone close to you, a creative project reaching a turning point, or a romantic relationship changing direction. Uranus in Gemini, moving through your 8th house, brings potential disruptions involving intimacy or shared finances, just as the creative side of your life demands your attention. The Jupiter-Saturn trine works strongly in your favor. Jupiter in Leo, traveling through your 10th house, forms an harmonious aspect with retrograde Saturn in your 6th house. Your career receives meaningful support through discipline, consistency, and your daily efforts. Nothing happens by chance. Everything is built step by step. The Pisces moon trine Mars in Cancer, that is in your 9th house, gives you the courage to believe in your biggest dreams, pursue higher education, travel far away, or broaden your horizons. What you can do? If you've left a creative project unfinished, let this eclipse inspire you to return to it. You don't have to complete it perfectly. In romantic relationships, allow room for playfulness and spontaneously instead of relying on logic. If tensions arise involving friends or group plans because of unexpected news, avoid reacting impulsively. Give yourself time to understand what has truly changed and invest energy in your career now. The Jupiter-Saturn trine offers an excellent opportunity to build something lasting. Sagittarius rising. The eclipse moon falls in your 4th house, while the Sun and Mercury occupy your 10th house in Virgo. This is a classic situation of private life versus public life. This eclipse may bring a move, a home renovation, or a major change within your family. On the other hand, it could coincide with significant professional news, promotion, a new career direction, or greater public visibility than usual. Uranus in Gemini, moving through your 7th house, may shake up a partnership or romantic relationship precisely as you are trying to balance your home life and professional ambitions. The Jupiter-Saturn trine offers valuable support. Jupiter in Leo in your 9th house harmonizes with retrograde Saturn in your 5th house, showing that a mature philosophy of life strengthens your creativity, perhaps through children or a long-term creative project that requires patience. The Pisces moon trine Mars in Cancer, that is in your 8th house, gives you the courage to face profound emotional or financial transformation. What you can do? If you are thinking about relocating or making a major change at home, use this eclipse period to clarify what you truly want rather than rushing to sign paperwork immediately. Pay close attention to the balance between the time you devote to your career and the time you give to your family and to your private life. Because as an old imbalance may now become impossible to ignore. If tension arises within a partnership, address it openly instead of allowing it to quietly erode the relationship. Finally, trust the slow process of building something meaningful. Jupiter and Saturn remind you that patience invested in a creative project or in raising a child produces lasting results than instant rewards. Capricorn rising. The eclipsed moon falls in your 3rd house, while the Sun and Mercury occupy your 9th house. This axis connects everyday communication, siblings, and short journeys with higher education, philosophy, long-distance travel, and faith. This is an excellent eclipse for gaining intellectual clarity. An important conversation, a course, an examination, or news involving higher education or long-distance travel may completely reshape your perspective. Uranus in Gemini, moving through your 6th house, shakes up your work routine or health. A sudden change at work or a signal from your body demanding immediate attention could disrupt your usual schedule. Jupiter in Leo, it's in your 8th house, forms a nice trine with retrograde Saturn in your 4th house. A profound transformation involving shared resources, inheritance, or emotional healing is strongly supported by your family roots and the stable foundation you've built at home. The Pisces moon, trine Mars in your 7th house, gives you the courage to speak openly and honestly within a relationship or business partnership. What you can do? If you need to have an important conversation with a sibling, neighbor, or someone close to you, the eclipse favors honesty, but choose your timing carefully. If possible, avoid having the conversation on the day of the eclipse itself. Pay close attention to your body's signals. Uranus in the 6th house has little patience for ignored stress or accumulated exhaustion. An unexpected opportunity involving study or travel may appear. Don't dismiss it simply because it wasn't part of your original plans. And in your relationships, courage and directness will accomplish more now than excessive diplomacy. Aquarius rising. The eclipse moon falls in your 2nd house, while the Sun and Mercury occupy your 8th house in Virgo. This axis connects your personal income, values, and self-worth with shared finances, debts, inheritances, and deep transformation and intimacy. This eclipse carries both financial and emotional significance. It may bring clarity about your income, a change in the way you earn money, or an important conversation regarding shared finances, debts, or jointly held resources. Uranus in Gemini, moving through your 5th house, introduces unpredictability into your creative or romantic life. A sudden attraction, an unexpected romance, or a revelation about what truly brings you joy may emerge. Jupiter-Saturn trine offers reliable support. Jupiter in Leo is in your 7th house, harmonizes with retrograde Saturn in Aries, showing that your partnership are strengthened by your own maturity, patience, and inner stability. Qualities you've developed over time rather than overnight. The Pisces moon trines Mars in Cancer, gives you renewed energy and determination in both your work and you're committed to your health. So what you can do? If you are discussing shared finances or outstanding debts, approach the conversation calmly, even if Uranus in Gemini tempts you to act impulsively elsewhere in your life. Avoid making major financial decisions on the day of the eclipse or plus 2 days before or after. Instead, use this period to clarify your priorities and determine what truly deserves your time, energy, and financial investment. Leave room for spontaneous joy, a hobby, a creative activity, or simple playfulness. Not everything needs to be carefully calculated, and trust that your partnerships are more resilient than they may appear during moments of tension. The foundation is stronger than you think. Pisces rising. For you, this eclipse once again falls directly in your primary axis. Moon occupies your 1st house, right on your ascendant, while the Sun and Mercury on your 7th house. In the 1st house, that it represents identity, physical body, vitality, and new beginnings, and in 7th house, that governs partnership, marriage, contracts, and significant one-to-one relationships. This eclipse is deeply personal. It asks who you are now, what you've left behind, and who you're becoming. At the same time, it reflects those inner changes through your relationships with other people. Uranus in Gemini is moving in your 4th house, so may bring unexpected changes involving your home, family, or living situation, just as your personal identity is undergoing profound transformation. Jupiter, that it's your traditional ruler, is traveling through your 6th house in Leo and is forming a trine with Saturn retrograde in your 2nd house. So your work, daily routines, and health receive solid support from the personal values and resources you've patiently built over time. Meanwhile, the eclipsed moon in your 1st house forms a trine with Mars in your 5th house, giving you creative courage and the confidence to express yourself authentically without hiding who you truly are. What you can do? Allow yourself to change, even if those changes are clearly visible to the people around you. An eclipse on the ascendant rarely allows you to keep wearing an outdated mask. Be mindful of how your personal transformation affects your relationships and communicate openly rather than expecting everything to sort itself out naturally. People must understand what has happened with you. I mean relevant people. Pay attention to the balance between your sense of self and your home life, as Uranus is in your 4th house, may bring unexpected news or changes involving your family or private life. Finally, make full use of the creative energy flowing through the Moon-Mars trine. This is one of those rare moments when you have the courage to show the world exactly who you are. So, for all of you, look in your natal chart and see where do you have axis Pisces Virgo. And in those areas, it's happened everything. Also, look in your natal chart what kind of planets do you have on these areas. And also look where do you have Jupiter that is ruling Pisces and Mercury that is ruling Virgo in your natal chart. And what kind of relationship aspects are making in the natal chart. So, I wish you all the best. If you don't know your rising sign, I will let you below a link where you can order a rectification. So I'm waiting your questions and comments down below.